They might be very smart mentally, but immature financially. They can't take care of themselves. So they're teaching kids to be victims. That's why these trigger mechanisms, and you can't say words that are hurtful and all this stuff. So they're teaching that you're a victim, you're vulnerable. And what you teach and what I teach is that, hey, don't be a victim, be proactive.
Yeah, no, but you're right. I mean, this could be the greatest wake-up call for most of the citizens around the world. And look, from what we see with the numbers, most people are going to survive through this. But let's be honest, it also could have been worse. So the question is, are you going to start making choices today about your health, about your obesity, about your smoking, about your habits? Are you going to start making choices today about your financial education? And are you going to take ownership for where you're at right now? Unfortunately, everything you hear coming out of the media is preaching it's not your fault, and the government's going to take care of you, and that's just going to set you up to be a slave, and then the next crisis is going to hit, and the next crisis is going to hit. And again, I completely agree with you, Robert. This is perhaps one of the best chances in your entire life to literally be smacked into consciousness and say, wait a second, it's time I stop living in fear, take ownership of what's happening, and do, as you said, which is, what does God want you to do? And you explain this in a good way. And God, that is different than what you want to do. What you want to do for you is this selfish ego talking. What God wants you to do is what you're supposed to do for the greater good. And it sounds counterintuitive, but that choice always brings you financial prosperity, spiritual prosperity, and a great life.
It's really not so much what God wants us to do. What does God want done? It's a pain in the butt. It's easier just to take the bailout. And for me, I get up every morning. The hardest thing, Brian, is I have so much money coming in now. I have to fight the lethargy, complacency. I got mine. Screw you guys. That's what I battle now. I told you so. I told you so. You didn't listen to me. All of that, because we're all human beings. I have a good side and a bad side. I battle me every morning. It goes on between this year and that year.
We see that when big checks are being written, no matter if it's in the UK or the US or any other country, that means that basically they're giving the money on this way and they're taking it back the other way. They're taking it from us somewhere, because money doesn't come for free.
When I saw right after 9/11, I saw the next increment come in, Rich Dad's prophecy. And I said the biggest financial crash was going to come in 2016. Now, I didn't foresee quantitative easing, but we didn't have, back in 2002 when this book was published, there was no quantitative easing, and there was no zero interest rate policy. And I went, oh my God, and then Trump got elected. So this was postponed 4 years. It's here today. Rich Dad's prophecy is more true today than ever before. And it's about why the biggest stock market crash in history was still coming. Wall Street Journal trashed me. They took me to the cleaners, said, you don't know what you're talking about. And I don't blame them, because I was threatening their nest, you know what I mean? The real problem isn't the stock market. The real problem is the shadow banking system. The banking system, the financial markets we don't see, which is the repo market, the consumer corporate credit market, and then the commercial paper market. They're broke. So this stuff was happening in September last year, but they keep hyping it, CNBC and those guys. I know they have a job to do. They keep hyping this market up. So the market was hitting great peaks. And so I told my friends who have 401ks and IRAs and all this stuff, I said, hey, did your financial planner call you in December and tell you to get out? No, they told you to stay in. They told you to stay in, and meanwhile, the stimulus package comes in, it jacks the price. After it started to deflate, the stimulus market came in, they popped it up again so guys could escape. So the rich could escape. Meanwhile, they're on CNBC telling you, stick it out, stay for the long term, the market will bounce back. Oh, give me a break. Are you that stupid? Can't you see what they're doing? And the fact is they cannot. So this crash, as you know, just prior to this crash was called the everything bubble. Stock market was high, real estate was high, I don't know what else was high, gold and silver, everything was high. The trouble now, everything's deflating. I'm in serious trouble financially at one end, because I own hotels and I have 8,000 rental units. Today, they're not paying rent. Now, does that affect me? Of course it does. But the way the rich, or my rich dad taught me to play the game, is I have LLCs and S corporations and C corporations. Corporations, I hide behind that. I own nothing technically. They can sue me for my money, but they'll sue a limited liability corporation. They can't touch me. So this is what I taught in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So it's not the asset. I have businesses, I have real estate, I have stocks, bonds. I don't have any stocks, bonds. I have gold and silver, I have oil. Now, is my oil guy in trouble? No, because he didn't finance his oil drilling with debt. So some people are doing really well because they saw this coming. So it's not the asset class. It's really understanding or looking behind the curtain, seeing the wizard. Right now is Powell and Larry Summers and these guys. I mean, they misled us totally. So am I going to cry? No. What am I going to do? I'm going to change me. Now, I can't change them, but I can change me. That's my attitude. Now, gold goes up and down because the gold market is manipulated. The futures market, the ETF market, GLD, SLV, and then physical gold. So the thing I think is interesting is the price of gold goes down, but you can't buy any gold at the physical market. So the futures market is coming down, the GLD price is coming down, paper market is coming down, but physical, you can't get anything on it. Why? It's because the rich are hoarding it. The rich are hoarding gold and silver like toilet paper and guns. The poor and middle class are calling their financial planner, and the financial planner is telling them to stay in it for the long term. And meanwhile, the rich are getting out. Wake up is my message.
Kami mohon bantuan teman-teman untuk subscribe dan like video ini agar bisa menjangkau lebih banyak orang lagi. Setiap dukungan dari teman-teman sekalian akan sangat berarti buat kami. Selamat menikmati konten dari kami. Semoga bermanfaat.